Brigid Lowry is our guest today, and our subject is growing old. Her latest book is A Time of Living Graciously, Reflections on Growing Older. Brigid is the author of many books, including 8 award-winning young adult books, and one we hosted a webinar about a few years back, A Year of Loving Kindness to Myself. And Brigid is a long-time student of Buddhism. Brigid, welcome.
Thanks. Thanks for having me.
It's a pleasure. Congratulations on the book. Um, you've certainly given us lots to think about with it. Why did you decide to write this, a book about the aging journey?
Well, they say you write the book you need to read, and because I'm 73, that was on my mind because it's a huge life stage and we're not ready for it. Like we know that teenagers, it's a life stage and they're going to be hormonal and they're going to hate their parents and need a cuddle, but we don't really know until we get there. Like, oh, all right, here I am in a life stage. I don't know much about it. So and I mean, I'm not one of those people who has 57 book ideas. I probably just thought, what am I thinking about? What do I know something about? And as friends get ill and die, it was like, okay, how is my life? Like I bring in sort of memoir, humor, and dharma. And these were the things I thought, well, okay, there's your topic. You can bring in memoir, humor, and dharma to this. And it's just to finish. It feels like a fitting way to go out because all of my friends laugh, laugh, laugh. But that's actually the last book I'm going to write, and it felt like that's a good one.
Really?
Yeah, good topic to go out on. You should never say never, but yeah,
No, don't say never. I'm sure you'll have many, many good years to go, Bridget. So, and many more books to write. So, what have you found out? Have you found a right approach, a good approach to growing old?
well, it's a work in progress. I think that the book stands up. Some lovely friends in New Zealand bought the book, not the ones who are on the screen, by the way. And then they only just read it. They've been down in their little cabin in the South Island, and I got this wonderful email yesterday saying, "We finally read your book. I've been reading some to Jamie. We love you. This is an amazing book." And I just felt like, okay, it's hitting the spot because there's a lot in it. There's stuff about
Yeah.
living in happy ways and physical stuff and dying, and it covers most of the bases. And so, yeah, I think it hit the spot. But just going back, I refuse to accept your curse and blessing. I definitely don't want to write another book. I might write a poem or two or an essay here and there, but yes, and you can have the last word if I do write another book, Helen. You can say I told you so. But that's something
Well,
that comes into this book is how do you want to spend the time you've got left? And I've spent
true,
a,
true.
a
Yeah,
long time sitting on my bum writing and with a deadline. And so I actually like to do other things now. I call it the home monastery, and that sounds
yeah.
very highfalutin, but basically I just want to live a very quiet life. And others may realize this. The things that didn't seem to take much time now do, like buying food, cooking food, going for a walk, and then I see my grandchildren. I try and have social contact, see a friend. A week goes by and it's like,
Mm,
okay,
mm.
this is my life, very simple, very quiet. I'm less into going out to entertainment. And you have to make some choices. What do I want to do with however long I have now?
So, Richard, aging is a reality for all of us. How do you advise we approach that, we accept that?
Well, with good cheer. And it's interesting. I cut out this article from the Australian, right? And she's a touring professor who's a Christian woman. She sounds really good. Her main point was my main point, and she basically said she's a scientist as well as a Christian theologian and various other things. She's uniquely placed to make this assessment and speak on the benefits of a positive mind state. She finds it, and they actually say, and I don't know where they plucked this figure from, but I did put it in my book. If you're really positive and have good energy and don't freak out, I'm putting it in layman's terms, you can live up to
Yeah.
7.5 years longer. Now, where they got that from, I do not know, but Harvard studies, blah, 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 all of this is verified. And it's to do, they can measure in your brain when you're doing positive things and feeling gratitude. And so this to me is all because as I say in the book, it's very easy to get into the isn't it awfuls. Friends are
mm,
dying, your body's failing, everyone else's body's failing. When you forget something, you don't just go, oh, forgot something. You go, right, could it be dementia? Like, let's not pretend it's a total picnic to have,
mm.
in my own
Yeah, yeah,
case, my sight's
yeah.
going a bit, my hearing's going a bit. We don't want to go into other bodily parts that are going a bit, but it is
Mm,
a challenge. It like
yeah.
the Buddha told us this. We'll be born. If we're lucky, we'll get old. Otherwise, we'll die young. But it's still such a surprise. It's like, oh, okay, like me, my
It's,
turn. How do
it's
I
happening
deal
to
with it?
me.
Yeah.
It's happening to me. Look, you mentioned the Buddha, so how do the Buddhist teachings help, or how have they helped you? I'm thinking of things like impermanence and mindfulness.
Well, the three basic characteristics, or whatever they're called, which is impermanence, not self, and unsatisfactoriness, they're all totally now in plain sight because just the impermanence thing, which we know, okay, I'm getting older, but every day there'll be a reminder. Here's just a funny one. I look at my grandchildren, these dear little toddlers. No, they're 11 and 7. The 7-year-old's sharper than me half the time. I look at people who, my friends' kids, and I thought, oh, yeah, they're 14. They're not 14, they're middle age. So we see impermanence, whether it's a shop's
Mm.
gone or our hair's gone white. So there's that unsatisfactoriness even if we're happy and cheerful and have gratitude, it's still, there are still unsatisfactoriness. There are still things that go wrong. There are still challenges. There are still days that we do not feel happy and terrifically wonderful. And then the not self part, which everyone else finds the hardest, but who's it happening to? Like, if to me, this is a deep part of the inquiry. Like, for example, this morning, you don't want to know this, but I'll tell you anyway. I was sitting up in bed. I always have tea and toast and read. I spilled my tea. I spilled it. I was just about to drink my nice cup of tea. It was all over the carpet. It was all over the doona. It was all over everywhere. And so I can go, oh, Brigid, you're an idiot. Brigid, what an idiot. Story of Brigid. You know, you won't be mindful. Goodness, you've got to go online and talk about being mindful. You're not being mindful. You've wrecked your cup. Well, that's no percentage. I could just go, okay, feeling some distress, wipe it up. I don't need to bring in the story of me that got it wrong. I can just be in the moment. And as they say in Zen, what is the correct response? The correct response is to clean it up, get another cup of tea, and forget about it, basically. So I
You,
think those
you,
three things,
yeah,
very
you,
important.
right, you talk a lot in the book about being in the moment or trying to be in the moment because it is difficult. Can you tell us a little bit about being in the moment and how that helps as we get
Sure.
older?
Well, in terms of Buddhist practice, there is only the moment. And where else could we possibly be? But the human
Mm.
mind, especially if you've had trauma, I had a lot of early trauma, we're thinking, well, I don't like this bit because I feel a bit anxious, or I don't like this bit because,
Yeah.
so I'll think about the next bit. Later, I'll watch my favorite show. Later, I'll eat this, or we go back into the past. I shouldn't have said that. And none of that is of any value. And to me, my practice at the moment is what is being in the moment? It's being in the body. I'm in the body. Am I in the body? Can I not be in the monkey mind, in the fantasy, in the regret, in the making up a terrible story about why someone didn't do what they should have done? There's nothing else but the moment. And if you just could practice with that till forever, of course, half the time you go, oh, I just walked around the lake. I was basically planning next Thursday. But then you can come back and you go, oh, deep breath, come back. What's actually happening? That's a nice
Mm.
treat. So yeah,
Yeah.
that's important.
And another aspect of the Buddhist teachings, and harking back to your earlier book, Loving Kindness, um, how does that come in? And I'm thinking here, you tell us in the book that you're living in a retirement village. How does that come in when you're, meeting all the other residents there, and other ways that loving kindness perhaps helps in the journey?
Yeah, well, definitely living here has its own issues. Being for me, being kind in terms of where I live is there are a few people here who are like my real friends, And there are some
mm,
people who are friendly acquaintances, and there are some people who are deeply challenging because there's all sorts here, all sorts of people.
mm,
So
mm.
I had one example of a guy who shifted in near me, and I didn't like him. He didn't want to be here. He was grumpy and he drank a lot, and I was like very against him in my own mind. I mentioned it in the book, and then at a certain point, I thought, could you just be kind? And so then I started going, oh, well, say good day to him. And it turned into a really funny thing because I'd always say to him, how are you going? And he'd go, too early to tell. And then we'd have a bit of a laugh. And he's passed away now, but we're all human. And I feel better if I can have kindness to the other people around here.
Yeah. I mean, it's really difficult to generalize about growing old because there's so many different experiences. You know, for many people, health is a big problem. Others, it's not so much. Some people seem to just sail through it, and it's psychologically a really difficult time. Um, so through all that generalization, are there any sort of standout lessons, perhaps?
Well, I agree with what you just said. It is very individual, and we
Mm,
can only, this is going to seem like a segue, but it isn't. I got a self-help book out of the library recently, and I'll give you the whole thesis of the book in one sentence, which is let them. So the whole thing
yeah,
is other people are going to do what they do, let them, and your job is to do you. And so I think that is important that everyone claims their own agency over what's needed for my body, what's needed for my mental health, what's needed for my aging. What is my path, and mine will be different to yours, and then just own that and get on with it. Like, don't waste too much energy about what other people are getting up to. I think I just love that. It's like, let them. Okay, that's good. I don't have to be a codep, and I don't have to worry
mm,
about my nephew's
mm,
problems.
mm,
If someone asks for my help, obviously I will give it, but my job now is
yeah,
to kindly and
yeah,
tenderly look after my own needs, and they will change. Like things you wanted to do, like say in your 30s, maybe you were really into travel, and maybe now you realize, yeah, I did a lot of travel. That's not something I want to do now. Like, or I used to put a lot of care, I don't know why I'm saying this, a lot of care into my appearance. I used to dye my hair and buy expensive clothes. I don't actually feel the need to do that now. So
mm.
whatever is correct for you is the correct thing. I mean, if you want to start dyeing your hair and wearing expensive clothes, feel free.
Yeah, but you're letting go some of the stresses and pressures that um, many people feel, and sort of that leads me to something that I think that's in your book that um, a lot of people find it difficult to deal with the physical aspects of aging, and they're fighting against it. You know, dyeing their hair and going to the gym, and trying to be young, trying to be youthful. Because you've got a chapter on ageism, and it's a real thing, and you feel that as you get older, you feel that slight discrimination.
Sure. Yep, that's true. I was going to read a little bit out of the book. I don't know if
Sure.
it's probably not in answer to the question, but I reread this on behalf of you and I thought it's not bad. And I just picked out a few little bits. So this is something.
Yep, great.
Lastly, I think it might have been in the chapter about the body. Take pleasure in small things. This is your life. These are your mornings and afternoons, your days and your nights. Now that most of the big events are over, like finding a job or a partner or making babies, take the freedom and savor the quiet moments. A piece of music, the smell of sandalwood soap, the wink of a stranger as you wait in a queue. There's not much else, and this is everything. So there was that. And now I've got the book open. I'll read the other
Well,
short
that
passage.
that does answer my question, how to make it a rewarding time. So yeah.
And one more little reading, because I think it's the same, answering the same question. I've It follows talking about some older people who were doing amazing things in their 70s, 80s, and 90s. We do not have to be these extraordinary people, but we can be encouraged by them. We can do astounding things or choose to live simply and quietly with composure, creativity, calm, contentment, despite climate change, world chaos, and other people's craziness. We can savor it to the full, this precious, shitty, wonderful, puzzling life, so messy and mysterious. It contains jasmine incense, soft autumn light, a spicy meal, a woebegone friend, a dove outside the window. It contains our birth, our life, and our death. It gives us an opportunity to cooperate with change, to allow ebb and flow, delight, difficulty, shadow, and moonlight. It makes sense to appreciate every moment of the time which remains to us.
Mm,
And just
beautiful.
because you asked about where I live, Helen, um,
Well, it was in
yeah,
the book. I
you know,
wasn't
but I
giving
just
away a secret. Mm,
wanted to add, having read that, because this is for people who are over 55, this, and it's also in the book, there have been a lot of people who've passed away or gone to higher care. And there was a woman, I wasn't particularly fond of this woman. She was quite right wing, and I think she didn't like me. So sometimes she wouldn't say hello, but she was a short little lady. And she was in her 80s with she wore these shoes like that, and she tottered around, and you'd see her tottering back from the shop and tottering off and tottering around. Anyway, last week she was tottering off. This week she died. And sadly, she
oh,
died. She died in her unit, and she wasn't found for 2 days. So it was pretty sad. She was,
oh, yeah.
but it just reminds you, like 4 days ago, she was tottering quite merrily back from the shop with her shopping. And the reason there was something very poignant about this. A neighbour walked past her place one day, and the blinds were down, and there was a parcel tucked in the door, like from Amazon or something. And the woman thought, oh, that's odd. And the dog was sniffing around the door. And anyway, she went the next day, and there was the parcel still there. And it just really and then she made the alert, and they actually have to get the police to come and do a welfare check, and she had died. But there was something about the parcel. Like one minute you're shopping at Amazon, she probably bought herself a
Mm,
new scarf or something, and
mm.
the next day you're gone. And so it's not just a truism, live each day as if it might be your last, because one day it will be your last.
Yeah, well, you do have a question on what you call the big D. Sorry, you do have a chapter on what you call the big D, as in death. And you say you're still really forming your thoughts on this of how you approach it. Have you thought any more about it, Bridget?
Well, it is a biggie, isn't it?
Mm, it is,
It's
yeah.
a biggie. And I think most people would go from sort of acceptance and understanding to fear and anxiety. And it's the vulnerability, it's the not knowing, and it's the like, if you do have fear and anxiety, well, that's going to be probably where you put some of it. Like, oh, what if it's very painful? Or what if really there are other ways to look at it? And this is a practice too. Anne
Mm,
Aitken, who was the wife of Robert Aitken Roshi, said that this is the best thing I ever heard. She said, the bus comes and you get on it. And other people would say it's a change of destination. And if you've got views and opinions, like if you thought you were going to heaven, or if you believe in karma and rebirth, or if you don't, that'll affect your sort of attitude to it. But basically, I think, it's like anything else. There's not a lot of point stressing out about it. To live the life cheerfully, and then hopefully, when our time comes, whether it's a huge illness or whatever happens, we're going to have to, as my granddaughter would say, we're going to have to deal with it. And
yeah,
and so the things that we're practicing now, like contentment or wisdom or staying in the moment or having an open mind but a sort of fairly positive attitude, these are good things, and they'll stand us in good stead, whatever the whatevers.
yeah. Um, your book, which I'll show everyone. I hope you can see it. It's a lovely book. It's very thorough. You look at so many different aspects, Bridget. And one of the things that we all worry about is forgetfulness and dementia. And so you tell some quite funny stories against yourself on forgetfulness. But when does it become a problem? When, it's one of the big things we all fear as we grow old. What are your thoughts about that?
Well, yeah, it is tricky. And as I said before, like you can't find your wallet and you immediately think, oh God,
Mm,
is this a slippery slope?
mm,
I think
yeah.
one thing is from other people I know, often often the family's in denial. So I had a friend who I knew she was losing it. And that there was a certain point where I thought, oh yeah, that's just old age forgettery. And there was a certain point where I thought, I'm worried about this woman. And I talked to both her adult children. Both of them were in denial. They went, oh no, that's just mum. But of course it was dementia and she's now like completely gone and doesn't know who they are. So sometimes other people will know. And that's the sad duty of your children if you have them. I know someone else who the woman was an absolutely amazing, talented New Zealand woman, a voice coach and la la la. But her son went round and she was doing strange things. She was putting all these cans around the edge of the kitchen. So, I mean, we ourselves may be worried, but probably someone else will figure it out at a certain point. And again, I think I put this in the book and it's sort of humorous, but sort of not. If you go to the Alzheimer's website, there are things that are normal, like forgetting people's names, forgetting a word, going from room to room, going, what on earth was I doing here? These are normal old age forgettery. And the thing is,
So we shouldn't get too
don't
concerned when
worry
we
about
forget
them.
where we
But
left the keys.
yeah, but there are some that are worrying, and I'll tell you what they
And
are.
what are they? Yeah,
The only one I remember actually was, it happened to my friend's mother, when they're driving somewhere and completely get disorientated and don't know where they are. That's a very bad sign.
yeah.
So that is not good. The just I had a thought there. Wait, what was it? See, lost the thought. Yeah, you can only reassure yourself that, oh, that's what I was going to say. We understand fully that things will shapeshift as we get older. So we're quite understanding of the fact that our hair will get grey and our hair will have hearing loss. But having some forgetfulness is a normal part of aging. So you just have to go, okay, I am a bit more dotty and doddery than I used to be. It doesn't mean I've got dementia,
Mm.
but hopefully my son will go, don't put cans around the corner of the,
That's
just
very reassuring,
accepting.
Bridget.
And a bit
Yeah.
of a sense of humour is good. Like a
Mm,
bit of a sense of humour where you go,
mm,
uh-oh,
mm.
not being
Yeah,
hard on
I re
yourself, not being punishing, like, oh, you're an idiot, you forgot that. Well, no, you're just getting older. You're not going to go, you're an idiot, you've lost your hearing a bit. You don't do that. You go,
yeah.
be very, very tender to this person who is facing the vicissitudes of not being as sharp as they used to be.
Yeah, so we're speaking about dementia. We're on to the heavy subjects, people. And I remember Bridget asking someone, I was concerned about dementia because it is in my family. And he said, his very wise person said to me that, how will you know how you'll feel? He said a lot of people with dementia are very happy. They're quite okay. They can be silly, but they're quite okay with it. It's just their friends and, loved ones who are concerned about them. Did you find anything like that, Bridget, in your study?
Well, not really in my studies, but just as a human being, there are quite a
Yeah,
few people who do just are fine and are
yeah,
just not, they're not in this land anymore and they don't know who people are, but they're not distressed. And
yeah,
unfortunately, some other people do become quite distressed, and
yeah.
that's the way it is.
Mm. Now you have lots of practical advice in the book. You have advice on staying healthy. Can you remember some of the things you say in the book?
Well, they're all the fairly obvious things like eat properly, get sleep, have social contact, do exercise is really important because a lot of people go, oh, I can do a bit less now, but actually it's better to do a bit more and specific. I just read an article in the paper today actually, and it basically said that if you've got osteoarthritis, exercise will have no effect on the pain, but you will like exercise is good for balance and coordination and strength and bone density. So there's that. Like most people, it's you don't want to have a fall. That's one thing about this. Having a fall is not good. And then you have a hip operation. I know this has happened to various women I know, and not always that great after the hip operation, not just a bit more frail and fragile. And it
Mm,
can be just 1 minute. Like one of my friends, this sort of interesting story, not funny, but ironic. she was in her yard and a neighbour had thrown a branch over, and she thought, I shouldn't really throw that branch back into their yard, but damn it, I'm going to. And as she threw the branch, she fell. And sadly, she lay in her
Oh,
garden calling out for like an hour.
that's sort of instant karma. Mm.
Yeah, well, she hadn't done anything to deserve that. But another
Yeah.
friend was just having her, she'd walk, and she lives near some bushland. She was off for her walk, and someone's dog attacked her and bit her and knocked her
Mm.
down. And she also had a hip operation. So
Mm.
balance is really important. And this is
Yeah.
just a weird
Yeah.
fact. I live by a lake, and part of my mental health and just staying strong and being in nature is I walk around the lake. It's a lovely lake, it's trees, but there are
And
lots of
Bridget, you walk every day, don't you?
yeah, oh
From
yeah, yeah, yeah.
yeah,
There are lots
yeah.
of little children there on their little skateboards and little bikes. It terrifies me because they can't steer, and it's like, yes, I'm an old lady, and when I see a small child, I step off onto the grass because I do not want you to run me down. None of their mums and dads would have any idea that for older
Mm.
people, little people who can't steer are quite frightening. So
Mm.
yeah, just
Yeah.
do what you can. And I also, this is my own belief, do stuff that you like. Like I was going to a thing called chair ballet, and I was going to it because it was up the street and it was $10. So you sit on a chair and the people from the WA ballet and you do like ballet things. And I
Yeah.
did it for about 5 weeks, but luckily, no, maybe 10 weeks. I didn't like it that much. My friend loved it, and that's fine. But now my son's changed my childcare day, and I'm really, really happy because it means I don't have to go to chair ballet. And I thought, Bridget, you didn't even have to go to chair ballet. Like, go to table tennis, go to something that you personally like. I think looking after the body shouldn't be just another chore. Like, if you can find something that's keeping you strong and giving you physical movement and also social contact. It's important. Like I also go to a gym that's for older people and I hate it. I have to force myself to go. This week, one of the
Because Bridget, because it's for older people, or because you
no,
don't
just
like the
because
gym?
I'm a lazy person who likes sitting around reading books, basically. I've never been
Yeah.
an exercise person. And the young physio plays what I consider to be terrible music, and we always joke about that, but he's not going to change. So, but it's necessary. And I realized everything needs a bit of refinement because there's two classes you can go to. And they basically, you get an assessment, you get some exercises, you have them on a chart, and you go in and do them. So you're in a room with about 8 other people doing their chart, and there's a physio there. And so I just force myself to go straight to the cafe and drink a chai as my reward. And this week there was a student there, and he was so onto it, and he basically corrected me on all of my exercises to the point that I nearly wept and left because I was just rushing through them. I was just like, do them quick and
And
rush them through. And he actually pointed out, you're supposed to do this one slowly, and your head's supposed to be like, oh, okay, thanks for that. So,
and Bridget, what sort
yeah.
of exercises are recommended for our aging bodies? I mean, I've heard weights are good, but
Yeah, well, they do this
what it
assessment and they'll go, you, Helen, need balance and coordination and
mhm.
upper body strength. So I think mine are to do with balance and just, I don't know, to be honest, but it's very individual. I see that
Yeah.
the other people doing things and they're doing different things, but I'd say in general it would be bone health, like you're lifting some weights up in the air, and that's for this, and a
Yeah.
lot of them are for
Yeah.
coordination and
Yeah.
yeah, just general different parts of your body. Yes, as I
Yeah.
said, I'm the wrong person to ask, but I feel like, yeah, walking every day is good for many things. It helps me with my sleep. I have a bit of, will I get to sleep anxiety, and I know that I'm
Mm.
more likely to if I've done walking, but I just enjoy it, and people get to know each other at the park, and
Yeah.
also, yeah, it's just general fitness.
Yeah. And as well as those practical suggestions on health, you've got practical suggestions for things you can do. And one I liked was writing your life stories or helping others to write theirs.
Yeah, I think for me, because I am a writery person, writing things down can be good, like lists and what am I grateful for, or writing as a tool or journaling as a tool. I find it a really good way to keep in touch with myself. And also, one of the places that I'm practicing, both with aging and Buddhist practice, is to be a lot more real about what I'm feeling. So, if you're a good little Buddhist, it's like, oh, yes, I'm fine all the time. But really, you're probably not. You're probably having the wide range of human emotions, which would be joy and delight and da da da, and also
So if
the
you're feeling angry about something that's
yeah,
happened and
angry,
feeling it's
anxious,
unfair, you're
sad.
recognizing that. Yeah.
Yeah, and to be one, like you don't want to be just the person who's processing all the time. Like, here's my friend, I'm going to tell them all my less than palatable emotions. You can do that. You can have a
Mm,
therapist, but you can also, I journal because it keeps me in touch with, oh, in fact, I sit every morning, and a friend was doing this, a friend of mine who's a clinical psych. He's actually the person in the book who calls himself Steve, who's not Steve.
I,
He's,
I was going to ask you about that because
yes, we'll come
it's
back to him.
interesting. You've spoken to many people,
Yeah, with
to many of your friends for their um,
I just
advice
finished that
or,
thread with that
yeah,
guy.
sorry.
This is interesting. He recommended, and I've been doing it. So after my sit every morning, you just write a little bit. And it's really
Mm,
interesting, like to see, oh, some ease and tranquility, or really, a lot of thinking, da, 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 just to keep it. It's just one more way of keeping in touch with ourselves and our lives. And just to answer what you're going to ask, the reason that there are three people in the book were interviewed was because my editor, who I have to take notice of, said, oh, when I pitched the book, she went, oh, yes, and we'll need other voices. And I go, oh, okay, no idea what you're talking about. But then we thought that's a good way of bringing in other voices to ask some other people, what
mm,
is it for you? What are you frightened of? What sort of a funeral do you want? And I thought that was really interesting. As I said, I just reread it. And I reread what all those people had said, and particularly my friend Ro in New Zealand. She was the one who reminded me that it's a life stage. This is a life stage, like being a
mm,
teenager. And you go, okay,
mm,
what does this life stage asking of me? And it might be like, well, if you've been a career person, okay, you don't have to be a career person, but how might you want to give back? How might you want to take your love out into the world? Like we do things for ourselves. We might, part of eldering, if you able to might be how do I give back to others? And it might be very simple. Like for me, it's I see my granddaughters once a week and I take my son and his wife and the kids some food. And I try and be nice and kind to the people who live here who are pretty lost and lonely. And maybe a lot of people don't spend time saying good day. And yeah, it doesn't have to be huge things. I do volunteer actually at a it's like a community centre dash op shop dash da da da. So, and it's a
mm.
two-way street. Like I enjoy going there and it's social contact and I get to pick herbs out of the garden. So yeah, to be a
So
part
it,
of the world.
yeah, it sounds like keeping busy is part of your approach.
Yeah, I'm not too busy, but just like you wouldn't want to be just home alone all day, every day, all by yourself,
Yeah.
agonizing about things. That can happen. I think that's something that all the research says is there's sort of about seven or eight things that are the main things, and one of them is social connection.
And there comes a time as you get older that you sort of stop making goals for the future because there's not so much future, and you're reflecting a lot more. You're looking back, and there are positives about that, things you're happy about, and there's also regret. Is that something you've done, and how did you deal in particular with regret?
Yeah, it's interesting because on the PR you said something about regret, and I thought, oh, what am I going to say when Helen asked me that? Um,
Well, it is in your book, so I'm
yeah, it is,
sure
and
I didn't make it up. Mm,
I probably have changed my view on that a little bit because I just got sent something by my clinical psych and it was sort of a whole lot of blah blah. But one of the things in it was about types, and I recognized myself as one of these types. I've forgotten what it was called, but it had a name like something worrier. And this is one of my not useful psychological habits. And I won't go into like blah 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 why, the family of origin reasons, but basically, here's an example. I go to my son's, I take them a beautiful meal. I have good times with the grandchildren. It's all very delightful. And then on the way home, I go, oh, I got that wrong. My mind will go to the one thing that I got wrong. And it's a very unwholesome habit. It's a very unhelpful habit, what you got wrong. And so that's in the micro, like don't sorry, this is rude. Don't shit on yourself for everything.
mm,
Think of what
yeah.
went right and Don't be
Yeah.
focusing on what went wrong because it's not going to do anyone any good. But also in terms of our lives, I think this might be true. Like, did I treat my second husband properly? Maybe if I had treated him better, he would not have run off with the lady in the fishing club.
Mm.
Whatever. That's
There's,
not much
there's a
point.
lot of reflection. Yeah.
And a
Mm.
lot of it's like we did the best we could given the givens. And yes, there are things, the things that we got really wrong. And I won't go into mine in particular, but I'm not so big on reflection. I'm not so big on, I'll go back and sort of psychoanalyze myself. I mean, there's a bit of that, but to me, it's like I haven't found it super valuable to do a lot of reflection. If something comes to mind, I will reflect, but it's not
Yeah.
because this moment is the important moment and none of it can be undone. Like not one wrong move. Okay, maybe it was a wrong move. Yeah, but as my son has a funny thing. He's got a great sense of humor and he says, I think it's about time you let go of that one, Mum. So an example would be, I go, oh, when I see the photo, I wore the wrong shoes at your wedding. Yeah, and it was 14 years ago. Like you're still going to be worried about, oh, the shoes
Yeah.
are a bit clunky in the photo. Forget about it. About time you let go of that one, Mum. It makes me laugh.
Yeah. Okay, well, we'd love to hear from some of you on the Zoom with us and about your experiences, your attitudes to getting old. And I've got some questions here that will help stimulate the thinking. And it's from the book. Questions like, are there any positive benefits to aging? Are you scared of dying? Do you think there is an afterlife? What is the best thing about aging? What is the worst thing about aging? What does your spirit stroke soul need today? Do you believe in bucket lists? What are some things you never want to do again? And if you had a week to live, how would you use it? So if any of you would like to come in with your thoughts, you're very welcome. So, and while we're doing that, Bridget, do you believe in bucket lists?
Not really. It was interesting that two of my friends went, no, not a bucket list. No, not really. I feel like most of the things I wanted to do, I have done. So, yeah, it's not big for me.
Yeah,
But if you want to have one, sure, go ahead. And if there's, I seem to be very micro. It's more like, what am I having for dinner? Oh, that'll be nice. Or what's on TV tonight? Oh, yay, my favorite show. Very simple
mm,
needs.
mm. Um, yeah, so you'll have to switch your mic off if you'd like to join us, but we'd love to hear from you. I might need some help, Linda, but let me know if there's anyone who'd like to join us. And meanwhile, I'll ask you one of these questions, and it's a tricky one. Bridget, if you had a week to live, how would you use it?
Oh, yes. Well, I sort of make a funny answer in the book. I say something like, I'd eat cheesecake for breakfast, smoke some hash for old time's sake, and ring every man who ever loved me and thank him. That was sort of a bit of whimsy, really.
Yeah, yeah,
And it was interesting that my friend, he who wished to call himself Steve, he was very practical in his, like make sure the paperwork's done. But I don't know.
yeah,
I mean,
yeah.
because I really feel that that's what we're doing anyway. Like, how do I want to spend today? Because I might get taken out at midnight. Like, I suppose if it isn't it funny that if you were told, this time next week at midnight you will be gone. I'm just remembering a line from a Strindberg play where they say, if the dead would look down, the thing they would want would be one more ordinary day. Like the smell of coffee,
Ordinary day.
your
Yeah,
partner's face, be with your
yeah.
dog. And so, yeah, I wouldn't be rushing around. I think I definitely would like to be with the people I love, which would basically be my son and my granddaughters, and just eat a good meal, walk on the beach, listen to some music, cry a few tears, maybe
Yeah.
call a few people, but very ordinary. One more ordinary day, one more ordinary week.
I was intrigued, as everyone knows, I'm sure we lost the actor Sam Neill recently, and I was intrigued that he said some weeks or months ago that he wasn't afraid of dying, but he would be very annoyed because he had so much more to do. So, yeah, that's one approach. Um, Linda, is there anything in the chat that we can pick up on?
There's no questions there, Helen. Luna said part of the ageism that has shocked me is my invisibility to others, such as shop assistants. Try being seen ahead of three men who come in after you in the hardware store.
Well,
Can
that's a
anyone
real
else
thing.
relate to do
Yeah,
that?
that's a
Yeah,
real thing, isn't it, Bridget?
yeah.
Yeah,
Being
true.
invisible.
Jocelyn had her hand up to say something.
Can I talk?
Oh,
Yes, you
Robin
can.
too.
Yes,
Yeah.
yes, welcome.
Thank you. I turned 70 last year, and for some reason, it was an absolute turning point. And I found that I could look back, and the perspective was amazing
Yeah,
because I could
yeah.
see such a long way back. I could see the width of it. I could see the depth of everything that I'd done in my life, and also the connections which weren't visible when I was living through it. I'm just enjoying the view. There's plenty more ahead of me.
Hopefully,
But
yes.
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
So it is a time to look back and you see things differently. You see
Mm,
your life differently.
mm. It suddenly all makes sense.
In what way?
Well, in particular, I can see that in all that time, something in me has never wavered from what I perceived as the most important thing. I was always looking. And at this point in my life, being immersed in Buddhism, I go, yep, that's what I was looking for.
Mm,
So that sense of having a very specific purpose to my life is very clear at this stage.
mm,
Never
yeah.
been before.
Bridget,
And
any comment?
Helen,
I
yeah,
just I think
sorry.
that's really important because, as others mentioned in the book, worldly concerns tend to fall away. I mean, you might still
Mm.
have a job or be very interested in getting a partner or some of those more worldly things, but books speak about this last part. It's sort of the time for the time for our spirituality, the time for it's like a place where we can be. My friend and I, hello Luna, call it the home monastery, like what is important to us now. And for many people, the spiritual life or the Dharma life is important to us now, or the Christian life, or that we didn't have time for when we were rushing around getting to work and raising children or whatever we were busy doing. So yeah, I think that's very valuable and
It's a,
wonderful.
yeah, to have more time for your Buddhist practice or
Yeah.
your whatever practice. Yeah,
To place it top priority.
yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, thank you, Jocelyn.
And
You,
Bridget, there's a question here from Robin. She's worried about becoming demented, and her concern is about being a burden to her family. Could you reflect on that a little bit more?
I think I read part of the question and she said it was in her family. Like there was if it's happened to your parents, it's more of a fear. So my heart goes out to you. That's troubling. We've all got that, and I don't really know. The thing about being a burden, I wish I could recall it a bit better, but there was someone who wrote a piece in the newspaper, like an opinion piece, and it was about he was perhaps a man in his 50s, and it was about his mother who had Alzheimer's. And it was very heartwarming. He basically said, this is not a problem. Like it was his mother, and no one's going to go, oh, I hope my mum gets dementia, but this is what had happened for him. And he was doing what needed to be done. And there was just so much love still there between them. And also, like, there's no good fretting about what we can't change. Like, whatever the thing is, whether it's the cancer diagnosis or the niece who's dying and shouldn't be dying because she's only 42. Like, we've all got something on our plate. There's no avoiding this. And then, with as much grace as possible, we deal with it. But that thing about, I don't want to be a burden, of course, that is normal. No one wants to be a burden, and no one wants to think oh God, don't let me be the one who's incontinent and da 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 da. But freaking ourselves out about it isn't going to help. So one day at a time, and you can say, this is a normal fear. I can be tender to that. It's a normal fear, and it hasn't happened yet. And if it does happen, then in that moment, one would attend to it. There's nothing else you can do, really.
Thank you. I hope that's helpful. And a question's come in from Roy. Thanks, Roy, who's done the big study on Theravada nuns and bhikkhunis. During my study interviewing bhikkhunis, the lack of aged care and palliative care for nuns was raised as a real concern. I don't know if that's something you can comment on, Brigid.
No, it's just I agree with Roy. And many Buddhisty people I know said, why don't we start an old folks' home? And I mean, it's just interesting. This is one thing I didn't really realize, but I have a friend who was going to ordain here. He's 75 now, but there's a certain point where he wouldn't have been accepted in the monastery.
I think it's younger than 75. Yeah.
Well, that's how old he is now. But
Oh, I
he
see. Sorry.
realized at
Yeah.
a certain point, my chance at ordaining is gone because they can't have, or if they would, too many old monks and nuns is a lot. So
Yeah.
there's a certain amount of care that could be done. If you're already a monk and you're or a nun and you're in the monastery, then you will be looked after. But it's also a burden's not the right word, but it's a thing. So yeah, my friend just goes to the monastery all the time and helps as a layman. And yeah, I mean, in an ideal world, there would be a beautiful Buddhisty place or a very green place. And sometimes you read about them, they always seem to be in Holland for some reason or some Swedish nation where
Yeah.
people are doing it right. People are doing it in a good way and making, just, I mean, this is a very simple thing. And you think, why would you care? But there was a program on the TV. It was what's the famous cook, Maggie Beer, and she investigated food in old people's homes and how terrible it was. And that to me was like, I don't want to be stuck somewhere where dinner is a white bread egg sandwich and a glass of cordial or something about that. I thought, where would be a place where the food was acceptable to an old hippie person? So yeah, I mean, we should maybe all band together and start this good place where aging, decrepit, forgetful Buddhists could go and be happy. But otherwise, we're just going to have to take our chances, I guess.
Well, one of the places that impressed me recently here in Victoria is the Atisha Nuns Centre at the Great Stupa. And they've built a communal house for the nuns there. And it is perfect for them as they age because each has their own room and each has an ensuite. And it's friendly to wheelchairs. It's everything's at the same level, so accessible, I think they call that. And so it's really exemplary, but there's not so many of those around.
How beautiful.
Roy,
That is so beautiful. Beautiful to hear that.
yeah. Roy, is there anything else you'd like to add to your question? Particularly about the nuns, Theravada nuns, which are the ones who started getting
Yeah.
older.
The the question actually that I asked the nuns at the time is, well, do you have any concerns at all? And I was thinking about, food accommodation, you know, monks were being mean, things like that. But more than one actually raised the issue of aged care, and they said there's really nothing for us. And with an aging nun community, um, especially in the forest tradition, and a lot of the nuns have actually moved out into very small single viharas, often in their parents' houses and so forth. They said it's a real issue that no one's talking about. So
And is
I wrote it down.
thank you, is it an issue for the monks in the same way, or do they get more
No,
care?
they get a lot more care.
Yeah, there's always these discrepancies, isn't there?
Mm.
Mm. Thank you,
Sometimes
Roy.
it's it just seems to fall on individual people. We had a situation here in WA where
Mm.
one of the nuns, Ajahn Vayama, who was a senior nun, and she got terrible motor neurone thing, and it went on for many years. And for whatever reason, there was a slight, I think she could have stayed at the monastery, but where she was, but something went wrong. Anyway, she went and lived somewhere else, and lay people looked after
Looked
her
after her.
for
Yes.
many years, for
Mm.
like 5 years. She was in one
Yes.
woman's house, and a young nun called Ayaseri looked after her.
Yes.
Ayaseri's now here in Perth, and she has
Mm.
her own Patachara monastery. So
Mm.
that was just lay people rising to the occasion and going, this is someone who's going to, can't just whack them in a, a place, a horrible place where this valued nun and teacher will be stuck in the
Mm.
corner with a lot of
Yes.
people with dementia. She probably would have been, like, there are some not very good options. So that was the generosity of lay people who looked after that person.
Yeah, it was wonderful. It was fantastic. And someone has pointed out that one of the aged care facilities had Maggie beer food, which I have to say sounds quite good. But I'm not sure if that was for for the nuns or just general aged care. I'm not sure if there's any more. Anyone else like to say anything?
There's a comment
Right.
above that one, Helen, about
Oh, Linda,
cultivating
could
gratitude
you?
and
Yeah,
compassion. Linda says, cultivating gratitude and self-compassion has become a focus of my approach to aging and drawing closer to the end of life. Aya Kema's meditation on focusing on the seed of enlightenment we all carry within us is a rich basis for practice.
that sounds good. Yeah. Brigid?
Sorry, I was reading the chat. Say it again, if you don't mind. I was just,
It said cultivating gratitude and self-compassion has become a focus of my approach to aging and drawing closer to the end of life. Aya Kema's meditation on focusing on the seed of enlightenment we all carry within us is a rich basis for practice. I'm
yeah.
wondering for you, is there any particular practice that you use that's specific to aging?
Well, that sounds beautiful, what she said. But also gratitude. Gratitude is important. I write that in the book. On even the worst day, the day that just where everything goes completely wrong, so many things to be grateful for, even just in terms of shelter, food, medicine, clothing, the Dharma. We have that. And there'll be just so many things to be glad of. And it's a tilting of the mind. Like, this is a tilting of the mind to the positive, to the wholesome, to the skillful, and not getting into, which it is easy to do, isn't it awful? Is it, because you can play that game as well. There's always plenty to go, isn't it awful? Well, yeah. If you want your mind to be dwelling in, isn't it awful, then feel free. But otherwise, so that's very important to me. Gratitude, compassion, a sense of humor. Like, I think that a bit of merriment, a bit of silliness, a bit of fun. You take it all so seriously, but soon we'll be dead. Like, a friend of mine said, that's like a deep Dharma teaching to her. You hook into something, some little thing that someone didn't get back to you, or your haircut went wrong, or we all have these things. My sister shouldn't do this, or the government shouldn't do that. And, and you're very entangled. The mind's very entangled in that. And then just to go, and soon I'll be dead. It cuts right
Mm.
through it. Like, how important is
Mm.
it? And I think I listened to a Joseph Goldstein thing. A lot of particularly the American Buddhist teachers, it's all about, and why wouldn't it be? The world is in utter turmoil, what to do. Like, it just seems huge. Like, isn't it worse than it used to be? And people are very engaged in political stuff and the exact thing that Trump's doing. And of course, this is dreadful, all of that, all of the above. And he basically said two things. One, that helped. So someone was asking him, Joseph, what about this? Like, what to do with the fact that the world seems to be in utter turmoil? Or it might be what to do when we seem in utter turmoil, when we only know the pain in the body, or the funeral of the friend, or the whatever. And the two things he said were really good. One, he said he reads books on civilizations and history. And when he does that, you just realize all the civilizations that have risen and flourished and died. Civilizations risen and flourished and died. And that's
Mm.
what's happening to us. Rising, flourishing. you know, in 50,000 years,
Impermanence.
this will be past history. And so that is very helpful to have a more expansive perspective. That's one. And the other thing he said, which is very easy, he just goes out and looks at the night sky. He goes out and he
Mm.
looks up at the galaxies, and it just reminds you where the we, I, you, all of it, tiniest dot in this huge thing. And so to have a wider perspective, I think that can be, it's not to spiritually bypass, but it's just to put it in a bigger perspective. And then the fact that the fact of what happened at Bunnings, which was shitty, they shouldn't serve the three guys first, but it's not that important in the scale of things. And I think that's useful.
Lyndall, are there any other comments on coming in on the chat?
No, Helen.
I thought I saw something come in, but I lost it. And would anyone like to contribute further?
Now,
But
Luna's
while
just
you,
saying that she loves the tilting of the mind and the untangling of the mind from the things, people over which we have no influence. That's a comment. Mm.
yeah. And if you'd like to join us rather than just writing on the chat room, you're very welcome. So we're coming up to time, Brigid, but we
So I do
talked
one
about death.
short reading. I had one more little reading. Shall we
Yeah,
finish with
but
that?
I yeah,
Yeah, go
but
on.
I'm just going through your questions you've written in your book. So we've talked about the big D death. What about, is it useful to think how after your death, do you want a funeral? Do you want a memorial service? Have you done that sort of thing? And very carefully put it with your will, as you're supposed to do?
I've done all the paperwork myself because it's good to do that. And my son doesn't want anything to do with it. He goes, I don't know whether it's because he's too busy or he doesn't want to think of his mother dying, but he's got all the paperwork. And then we have a little joke where I go, and you must play Van Morris. And he goes, you'll be dead, mum. I get to choose the songs. And then we have a bit of a laugh. So
Yeah,
I think some people are very, like one person I know who's a Buddhist teacher, she's like, nothing. I don't want anything. Like, get rid of, cremate me, and I don't even want a memorial. That's it. No fuss. Thank you. That's her wishes. She doesn't have children, and her partner's deceased. So, you know,
I had a friend who said the same thing, except I don't want a funeral. I'm donating my body to medicine. Boom, boom. I'm just going.
yeah.
And he died a few months back, and that's what happened. Body
And
just
that's
went.
good. And
Yeah,
sometimes people do want to, like really help plan their funeral and let's get this person to speak and da da da. But really, it's another letting go. I feel like I just hand it over. I don't know. I personally don't think that there's my own belief that anyone should spend 8 to 10 grand on a proper funeral at the here it's Karrakatta with the blah 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 on the slideshow because you can do it differently, like just someone else. They had it at the beach. It was just a party and kids,
yeah.
not to have balloons anymore, but like simple. And so, yeah, we are gone. You'll be gone,
And
Mum. I,
Lyndall's got a comment. Lyndall?
I just said funerals are for the living. I think they're a ritual where people can grieve. And I mean, I
Mm,
think rituals are important. And yeah, you mightn't want to have it if you're gone, but you don't know what's going on when you're gone. But it might be useful for the people who loved you to come together and do some
yeah,
sort of ceremony, is
yeah.
my thought.
it's
And Luna
interesting.
has said, leave no trace. Mm,
It's good. But it's interesting that my friend in the book, he'd gone into it very thoroughly and he wanted a small spiritual one where
this is
people.
Steve.
Yeah, Steve, who isn't Steve, and he
Yeah,
wanted to write something that would be read, and that but people had to be silent, and it would be an hour, and blah blah blah. But then he said, but not everyone would like that, so have another little ordinary one for people who did what Lyndall said. They just want to come together and honor you and have a cup of tea and see some pictures of when you were young. So, yeah, I think
mm,
if it's very important to you to know what's going to happen, you can help plan it and write down
yeah,
what you want. They call it a living will, but donate my body to science, or I don't want flowers, but give the money to homeless
yeah.
people or whatever, if that's
Well,
important to you.
so a comment here is I'm leaving it up to what my family wants, as long as it's sustainable and cheap. So that's the
Good.
thing,
Perfect.
sustainable funerals. You hear about that now. And Luna has written again, all you leave is what you've given.
Yeah, that's good. Good to see it like that.
And that sort of ties in with another of these questions here, and probably this is my last question, and then we'll have your reading. What would you like to be remembered for, Brigid?
Yeah, I think I put that in the book. It's something like,
You did.
she was creative, funny, a good cook, and loved to dance.
Yeah.
Like, and what Luna said is true. We've already done the business. If someone goes, oh, what I loved about Brigid was she put New Yorker cartoons in the mail, or what I loved about Brigid was she cooked for retreats and the food was good, or that is important. It's done. It's done. You try to be a good, I would say I've tried to be a good family member, a good citizen of the world, and a good Buddhist. I've tried to help, and a good mother and grandmother and friend and lover, and it's done. It's done. And some people still won't like you. Well, that's their problem.
And hopefully many more years yet, Brigid. So,
Yeah.
yeah.
I do put this
Okay.
in the book, though. My grandmother went to 101, and sometimes when my knee's really sore, I go, I don't want to be 101. That means I've got like 30 more years of having a sore knee. But yeah, you get what you get, right? I might be the brain hemorrhage tomorrow or the 101. So I
Yeah.
just read this little bit.
Yeah. Okay.
Okay. One might as well embrace the messiness of being alive, the happiness of being older, and also the sadness, fear and excitement, joy and sorrow, pleasure and pain, so closely linked, sometimes one can't tell the difference. If we can't find grace in the shifting world of 10,000 joys and 10,000 sorrows, then where can it be found? Then where can it be found? It's an art to recognize our blessings, to come to terms with the whole catastrophe of human existence, with all the parts that don't make sense and all the bits that do, with all our moments, surprising, alarming, splendid, or dreadful. Things are the way they are, and they won't always go our way, and a lot of it just doesn't make sense. But it's all we've got. This very moment, this very life, in all its worn out glory, its fabulous surprisingness. It's this and that and abundant everything. Yeah, so
That's beautiful. And so true. Thank you, Brigid. But I was also struck by a paragraph in your book. May we find our lives worthwhile right up until the end. May we hold this world with bountiful love. May we create our own farewell song. Such fragrant sadness touching our deep longing, a necessary part of living and dying. For now, all of this is just for a short time, as my Zen teacher says. All things arise and pass away in the spaciousness of the present moment, even us. May Buddha and Jesus and all the angels bless you every step. May you breathe peacefully in every moment, including your last. So, unless there's any more comments from our participants, Brigid, a final word?
thank you for reading that, and thanks to everyone for
Yes,
coming, and thank you,
yeah.
Helen. It's always I always dread it, but then it's always rich and wonderful.
Yes, thank you very much. That was terrific, and I think that's a wrap. So thanks so much, Brigid, for joining us today. It's been a terrific afternoon, and really appreciate your wisdom. And it's a terrific book, so I'll give you a little plug. Please go and buy it. And there's so much in it, and there's so much wisdom. It's a book you can just dip into, and you'll find little gems, or you can read it from cover to cover. But it's well worth it. Um, and I hope everyone's feeling more positive about this aging journey that we're all on, because we'll never be as young as we are today. And I got that from the book. So thank you very much.